Hey, it's Trigger, Rich Bontrager. Welcome back to another How to Rock the Virtual Stage, where we're here to help you to improve your skills and abilities to rock the virtual stage, because this stage is actually very powerful. A lot of people right now are thinking, boy, it's small, it's tiny, when instead it's going global, and the impact you can have in your virtual arena is so much bigger than what you expect. So I'm bringing experts in that deal with a lot of different areas of speaking, leading, thought leaders. And today we're going to be talking about broadcasting. I've got 25 years of broadcasting experience myself, mostly on the radio side. However, today I'm going all the way back to my college days and bringing an old friend. He won't say how old, but Kerry Liebelt is with me here today. And Kerry has been in radio and marketing for 37 years.
Yep.
He's a business owner, and he loves to help businesses in crisis and transitions. A great time to hear that.
Yep.
He's also out there leveraging the online and social media marketing. He wants businesses to thrive and grow. And right now, what a better time to have Kerry on the show. So welcome, Kerry. How you doing? Great to have you on the Rock the Virtual Stage.
Well, Rich, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the invite. A lot of fun.
It's been a while since you and I have sat in a room together. I think the last
That's
time
very
was
true.
at probably at Perkins, I think, last time.
That was the last time was in a Perkins. That is exactly right. Sitting down and chatting and catching up. Absolutely.
So the stage that you and I know professionally is something that we are very comfortable with. This whole thing of being in a room by yourself, bringing things alive to
Right.
people. However, to most people right now, they're freaking out. I don't know if you're getting the calls, the comments that I'm getting, but people are like, I need to move my businesses online. I need to
Right.
figure out how to communicate to my team and my leaders. I need to coach them now, but I'm horrible at this. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm in a little box with no freedom. Let's start there. What
Right.
do you think is the easiest, best thing to say to people right now that are really having a tough time making this transition?
Well, that is a great question. I guess in terms of the difficulty in making the transition, it comes down to, and I've posted about this, and I've done lives about it myself. It's like it's in crisis. In fact, I put it this way: ABCs. It's the ABCs of the situation, and that is that our ability to advancement is really birthed in crisis. So in every circumstance. I mean, you look at all of the great advancements throughout human history, they almost always came out of some form of crisis. Crisis points out a need for change. And so, therefore, those who are creative, those who use ingenuity, create a solution to overcome the crisis moment. And so, for anybody right now whose life has been shifted, now, for some people, like quite frankly, in all truthfulness, in terms of my world on air, on the radio, I was an essential worker. So I've been going to work every day, just doing what I do, so it's, that hasn't changed. What has changed, however, is perspective, the mind, who we're talking to and why we're talking to them. And it's part of, it's part of that reality of recognizing, okay, what is the need right now that people are experiencing and feeling, and knowing how have I or can I adjust to that? And then how can I help somebody else, which is exactly what you're doing. And so it's that reality of how bad is the need? you know, for most people, we are in a pain moment. I
Yeah.
think it's Tony Robbins says, people are motivated to change two ways, pleasure and pain. And this is a pain moment for most people. And, I get it. Even though I have not had to stop working, I still have had plenty of pain points during this crisis. And in the past have had plenty of pain moments as well, to recognize the fact that, you know what, every pain moment is really your best opportunity for advancement. So
Mhm.
for as difficult as it is, embrace it, press through it, and you will come out the other side with really, really good momentum.
I'm telling people, and I've told people for years from the platform, is you're either changing or you're dying.
Right.
So change is a part of development, and a lot of the best change does come through the biggest hardships we have. Looking back in the rearview mirror is great.
Yeah.
Going through the conduit is not a great time. All right. And people are going through it together right now. And that's one of the other interesting things of this pandemic. Even though we're virtually separated with home and other things, there's an amazing drawing together through the camera lens that I don't think anyone expected that to happen. Are you experiencing that too on your end?
Oh, absolutely. And again, part of it is when like utilizing this medium right here, which in business has taken off, right? So you see people are doing business meetings, they're doing all of their meetings, they're doing sales meetings, they have shifted how they have had to do business. And in your particular case, you look at speakers, all of a sudden the audience is right there.
Yeah.
Maybe I should say, if you're not seeing them because maybe you're doing a live, but you are right there. The audience isn't 10 feet, 15, 30 feet away. Boom, you're right there in front of them. There's a whole new level of authenticity and vulnerability that is there. And so, it's one of those things where, yeah, absolutely, people are recognizing the fact that it's a new world, it's a new way of doing business, but the beauty of that is that it actually allows for greater connection.
Yeah.
It would seem like it would seem not, but because it's so close, it's so personal, it allows for much greater connection.
And that's probably where I really want to take our conversation, because the connection
Right.
of this stage, if people learn how to use this stage,
Right.
it's now 24/7. There is no boundary, there is no box. And so I think we can expand our messages. Our stages are actually much bigger, even though it feels like a small room. This is a much bigger platform if we learn how to utilize it. Now, you've been on the broadcast booth. I've been in the broadcast booth. We both
Right.
know it goes places you can't even imagine, especially now with all the apps and all the gadgets.
Right.
Now, your special trait that I love to brag on you, and I do this all the time, is Kerry has the best voice in the world.
Well, you're
I
very
knew
kind.
Kerry way back in college. We went to Northwestern College up in Roseville, St. Paul.
Yep.
And from what I last heard, now correct me if I'm wrong, you have never cut a demo tape ever for a job. Is that correct? For really
Well,
applying for jobs?
originally, maybe the first one. Yes. I mean, yeah, probably the first one. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, because it's what everybody wants for their career, right? It was all then beyond that, it was all either, somebody heard or somebody saw or somebody referred, and have been able to kind of just move my ministry, my career on, through the years, just based on word of mouth and people hearing me on the air, that sort of thing. So
So
yeah,
you have
probably the first one.
you have one of those voices that people would pay to have, literally. So I want you to talk about the voice.
Okay.
You and I both know I've done 2 a.m.s. You've probably done 2 a.m.s.
Oh, yeah.
And you're in a boxer room by yourself. Maybe the janitor comes through, but you have to come alive and talk to people as if you're their best friend. You're actually talking to the masses, but talking
Right.
to one.
Yep.
Can you give us some pointers so people understand how to do that now through their virtual cameras?
You mean as far as the energy is concerned, or
The
just
energy, the
as a
voice, all
whole?
the things that we've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it comes down to, and you mentioned it, number one, recognize that whether you're talking to a person and you see the one, you're doing a live and there's one, or there's zero, but someone will come along and see it. You're still speaking to one. The truth of the matter is, by the time a year, 2 years, 3 years, because it's online, it's there for everybody to keep seeing. As long as you've got it posted, people will keep coming back to it. Eventually, it's going to hit 100, 1,000, whatever, but you're still only ever talking to one. And so keep that in mind as you're communicating, that you are using you statements, right? So we've all probably read people skill books, and they tell you when you're developing your people skills, learn to talk about you, not them,
Yes,
not y'all. It's you. You know what I'm saying? You're talking to the one person. And
exactly.
because even when you are watching something, you're one person watching this, you want this person speaking to you. And so it starts there. And then as far as the energy, you just you have to learn the fact that it's okay to create energy, to be energetic, to display that energy. And in truthfulness, it can get really weird in the room You think you're being weird, but the fact of the matter is your energy is the energy you're producing in the room when you're just being normal across the screen actually seems lower than it actually is. So you actually can ramp up the energy a little bit. Now, I will say this. You know, the various personality types, you know, you've got the choleric, the sanguine, those types. Sanguines can be pretty energetic anyway. And
Yep.
so sanguines have to learn maybe to pull back just a little bit because dial it down a little bit. But for most of us, we're not that high energy. And so we really do just need to kind of bring it up a little bit. And it begins. Now, this is where the third key comes from. If you've had any music training at all, part of that begins in the diaphragm. Be speaking from your diaphragm. So when you sing, you know that you're going to project from the diaphragm. And so even when you're speaking, part of that energy comes from delivering from the diaphragm. So it's kind of the physical part of it. But then it's also just kind of that mental enthusiasm. And so those are all the things that you just have to bring, because then when you bring that, it transfers. It's the magic of video and the magic of what we do. It transfers from you to the person who is listening or viewing.
And so talk about the diaphragm. I
Yep.
coach people, and I'm doing it right now.
Right.
I can't just sit without using my hands. I
Right.
talk, communicate, and you've been doing it the whole
Me
time as
too.
well. Most people talk with their hands and their
Yep.
physicality, their body is into
Right.
what we know it or not. Everyone does it.
Right.
For some reason, we get into the booth, especially if you're sitting down at a table, you shrink.
Yeah.
You go inside and you think, I can't go big. I can't express myself. Where you and I both learned, the more we get into it, the more we use our hands, the more we use our bodies, the greater the impact our voices are having, right?
Absolutely. And
So,
even so, like when I'm on the air, I always stand. And I always stand because standing is always going to give you more energy. When you sit, you tend to naturally, well, here's what you tend to do. You tend to do this.
yes, there it is.
You, you tend to slump back. But so right now, not just because of mic placement, but also because I know that if I'm sitting up on the edge of my chair, it's giving me mental energy from the physicality of being up, forward, and physically energized. And again, if you do any studying at all on, people skills and or body language, they'll tell you that, if you need to create energy and you need to inspire yourself, go into another room and do all the power poses, right? Do the Superman pose, because those power poses, they create physical energy that then comes out in your communication. And
No,
so,
that's perfect. That's
yeah,
dead on.
yeah, absolutely.
So now I've heard a lot of people asking me questions is I want to go big with my voice. I want to show and give a good yell, good little scream. But I'm also too timid. I'm too shy. Now I've learned that I know how to use this voice as an instrument.
Right,
I can bring the energy without screaming in the microphone and
right.
blowing up the sound booth. Can you talk about that? How do you kind of learn this level of relationship between the mic and you? And this is so important that you don't need to blow your voice out, but you
Right.
can do more with it than you ever understand.
Yeah, and absolutely. And again, that comes down to experience. So recognizing the fact that in this whole process, if you're brand new to, especially when it comes to the studio aspect of it, I think most speakers know and understand. Like if they're wearing a lapel mic, they know a little bit on how to utilize their voice to give the dynamic ranges. Just understand that you're normally doing it just on the vocal control of your voice because the mic is usually just it's static. When you have this microphone in front of you, you can play with it. You can move in, you can move in, you can move out. You can. Uh, it doesn't have to be a static place, but understand that if you move out, it's creating an emotional
Yes.
distancing. Then if you move in and get quieter, it then also creates an emotional connection on a different level. And then when you begin to like from your mind and then through your body, through that diaphragm use, you really begin to use your words, pop your words, use the vocal techniques you know how to use. You can create emotion, and that you can tell the story and put emotion into the story simply by how you use your voice and where you place yourself in relationship to the microphone. So it's a dance.
Yeah.
It's a dance. And you just learn over time. You learn how to utilize that dance.
So the dance now is opening up to businesses, to
Right.
CEOs, to my fiance is an esthetician, and she's having to learn how to take her business online
Right.
to coach people because she can't touch them. She cannot reach and do the healthcare of the things. She's having to do the nurturing through the camera lens.
Right.
So everyone from school teachers to churches to everyone is having to figure out how to do this. Now, you and I have both been in the ministry, so we both know this side is huge right now.
Right.
The church is having to dive into something they've never, ever experienced. What do you think is the impact of the virtual church, for lack of a better word? There's some churches that have been doing this for a very long time.
Right.
Others have avoided this like the plague, and now they really need to. Where do you think we stand with how this is being embraced?
Well, I think it's being embraced well. I mean, in terms of, I'm working with in fact, somebody, I mean, I'm not sure if you know him, but went to school with him as well. And he's a pastor of a small little church in Utah, and yep, totally outside of his realm. Right. And so just
Yeah.
kind of working with him, helping him break through just the kind of the barriers, in all these things. Somebody goes on a physical stage for the first time. You are scared to, I'm not going to say death, but you are scared. You're scared to a point of, and you're shaking. And I've been there too. I mean, you're doing your talk, literally if you're holding a microphone, the mic is shaking because you're so nervous. And there are times that happens and you don't even know why the mic is shaking. It's like, why am I nervous? I've been doing this, but it still does. So I get that. I mean, I understand that. And so there's always that point of, I'm going to use the word fear, but I mean, call it whatever you want, but that's okay. Just keep going,
Right.
because the more you do it, the more, the better you get at it, the better you're getting at it, and the more confident you become. And that first time, you know what? It's probably not going to be good. That's okay. Just keep going, keep doing it. And so we're seeing that in the church as well. So we're seeing people that are just breaking through that initial. I have a business coach that calls it a toilet paper barrier. It's a barrier. You see it before you, but literally, if you just went, you poke right through it, right? I
Right.
mean, it's not really anything. So you just got to get through that toilet paper barrier and then just keep going. Consistency is obviously always the key. Just keep consistent, just keep doing it. And that's what we're seeing in the church right now. It's we're seeing in business right now. People are embracing the fact that if I'm going to continue to grow, I'm going to have to embrace that. At least for right now, this is what I need to do. Here's the good news. The good news is, don't stop. There will be a day where we'll be able to actually reconnect face to face in groups. You know what I'm saying? That day will come.
Right.
Don't stop this, because you're making a relational connection this way that you could not make another way. Don't stop. Just add.
Now, that leads me to the next question.
Right.
I'm seeing a hybrid come out of everything from public speaking to
Right.
churches to businesses. Brick and mortar may change. I don't think everyone's going back to brick and mortar, no matter when the timetable is. I think there'll be industries that are going to say, we can do this virtual thing now.
Yep.
So we're trimming down on office cubicles. We're going to make you come in twice a week. The rest of the time, you're going to telecommute. Speaking industry, I think, is going to have a huge impact. You'll have the big Tony Robbins that you mentioned. You'll have the John Maxwells. They'll always get center stage live. You may have one or two
Right.
that may do breakouts. A lot of this, I think, is going to go virtual. And the entertainment industry is going to change. The hotel industry is going to be impacted. And I don't say that it's all bad, because I think small venues now, for the first time, can actually say, we have a theater.
Right.
You don't need a big convention hall. We can bring you into a theater and rock the stage with great talent and still pull off a great webinar, seminar. Do you see that coming, that the hybrid is going to be sticking around?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I'm noticing right now is just the creativity. So you're seeing what everybody is needing to step into, and you're seeing it everywhere from just basic to those who maybe had embraced it and were doing some things, they're taking their creativity to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And again, it just goes back to every time if you want to advance something, it will almost always happen as a result of trying to solve a problem. And so we have a problem, we're going to solve it, and we're going to end up advancing through it. And we'll discover that there were better ways to do things, and because we were forced into doing them differently, and it may be what we're doing now, it may be, like you said, a hybrid, but we will advance through, and we will come out the other side, and everything will be way more efficient and way more effective.
For those just starting out, I've got a lot of young speakers that I work with, and they're just getting their legs underneath them. So they're just beginning to get into this. Now they're having to jump into this platform.
Right.
Technology is huge. I went through vinyl, cartridges, the digital machine, the CDs.
Yep.
Now it's all digital, everything.
Right.
And technology, I think right now is going to take a quantum leap forward because of what we're going through. Speak to that, because you've been in as many studios as I've been, and I'm sure it's changing so lightning fast. What do you think technology plays in this conversation of learning, growing, speaking, communicating?
Well, it's a huge role, because obviously it's the platform, it's the vehicle that everybody's using right now, and so it's huge. And you're right, we are going to see. Well, let's just use Zoom as the example. I mean, we're on a Zoom conversation right now. Zoom exploded when this whole thing happened.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen in the process of this is other platforms. Perfect example. So Snapchat comes along, and they create a new way of doing connection. Well, so then Facebook goes, and if I get my story right, I think Facebook tried to buy Snapchat. Snapchat said, nope. And so Facebook went, fine, we'll do it ourselves. They created their own versions of the capacity to do the story, right? And so you're seeing different things. So the different social media platforms, every time one comes along that is new, unique, or different, all the other ones adjust and try to innovate and to move forward. And so we're going to see some great advancements, even in this idea, in this concept, out of here. And as a result of that, I mean, it's all technology driven. It's all technology based. And you're right, in terms of the capacity to stream, I suspect we're going to see that explode. I mean, there's a lot of conversation, dialogue about 5G. Take it or leave it. I'll let you have the conversation about what you think of it. But whether it's wireless or whether it's wired, everything's going to go to a whole new level. Well, I'll give you a perfect example, and take it for what you will. In the church that I go to, there's already a dialogue about how do we do multiple campuses, but do it with what's the word I'm looking for? Just forgot the name of the technology. Where it's virtual.
Yeah. No.
What's the word?
It's almost a hologram, virtual reality.
That's what I meant. A hologram. Absolutely. It's a holographic image. So you would have a location, and instead of having somebody on the stage, it would be a holographic image on the stage. Now, that is completely technology driven. You know what I'm saying? But it adds a whole new dimension of creativity and possibility. So yeah, absolutely. The technology and where it's going is going to be, I don't want to say a driver, but it is going to be the vehicle that drivers who want to create, want to be out in front, want to dominate their niche, dominate their marketplace. They're going to be those who are the first responders, those who get on board first with the new technologies.
How much over the years, because I can literally, as I'm talking with you, I can go back to different studios I was in, and the different technology things that you had to learn every couple of years.
Yeah.
And we all think it was the coolest thing in the world to finally drop a CD in after rewinding vinyl backwards.
Right.
How much of an adjustment is there every time these technology leaps goes for us speakers? Do you think this is easy for speakers to track with it, or do you think this is one of those hurdles? Technology has to become our best friend, but at the same time, we as speakers will always be the center stage piece, not technology. How do we dance with that, do you think?
Well, and that is obviously true. I mean, and that continues to be true even in radio. So let's go back to, you said how many, 25 years,
Yeah.
37 years, 30, actually technically 33 full-time years, but 37 years from the start to now. And while technology changes and technology advances, the same thing is always true. It's still always one person communicating to another person and communicating something of value, and that will never change. The means by which that happens, the conduit through which the connection is made, that may be different. But let's face it, even with radio, radio, if you look at the history of radio, there was a point in time where people actually said, you know what, radio's dying.
Hmm.
And you know what? If you think of radio as simply a transmission of a wave from a transmitter and a stick to a device that you're either holding on to in your house or in your car, and it's this wave going between, if that's your concept of radio, then you know what? You could be right. It might be. But if you look at radio as being nothing more than a provider of content of value, and it may be through a radio wave, otherwise known in the US as FM or AM,
Hmm.
or DAB if you're in Europe, or digital broadcasting here in the US, or it may be online, it may be via satellite. It can go many and various ways. If you recognize the fact that radio is nothing more than communication, and the means by which we accomplish it can be many and varied, then radio in and of itself really is nothing more than what we're doing right now. We could call this radio in as much as it is two people communicating together, and we're using technology to accomplish it. Now, the fact that we can see each other might negate the radio concept, but radio has moved so far beyond.
Yes.
Radio is embracing podcasting, radio is embracing video, radio is embracing digital media, because that's the only way to survive. So radio has had to change, to transition, even in some cases to try to innovate, to remain relevant. And so the same is true of the speaker. Speaker will always be, it's always one person communicating to another. How we do it will always change.
And that's kind of a great bullet right there, because the speakers have to still be the authority. They have to be
Right.
the voice. They have to be the
Yep.
arms, the leg, the conduit. The, the bells and whistles will change always. Well,
Yep.
they'll forever be changing for us, but you have to have the craft. And
Yep.
that's one thing that I think Richard Long and others taught us the
Yep.
way. This is a craft. This is an art.
Yep.
Figuring out how to do this and make it come alive. There are those that really have that skill, and for those, it's painstaking hard to get the craft, the art. So, with a little bit of time that we have left here, can you give some pointers, some real nuggets for the art of the vocal technique of stand and deliver, bring it to the stage?
Right. Right. Again, it comes down to, in terms of the actual techniques for delivery, I mean, physicality of it. I mean, it really does come down to, I would always recommend a vocal coach, because a vocal coach is always going to be able to help you take the instrument. And so let's just talk about that. Your voice is the instrument. And so take care of your instrument, do what you have to do,
Yep.
hydrate, do all the things you need to do to take care of that instrument. And then of course, how to use that instrument effectively. A good vocal coach is always going to help you accomplish that.
Mhm.
So first recommendation, always, doesn't matter whether you're in radio, voiceover, speaker, whatever you're doing, if you're using your voice, I recommend a vocal coach, because they'll teach you, they'll be able to work with you on your specific voice, because it's really easy to make comparisons. And this is failure rule number one. Do not compare yourself with others, right?
No.
Because the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter. I know people who have extraordinary voices. In fact, again, it's a business associate, unbelievable voice. He has a stadium voice. So he's the guy that, man, you put him on a microphone behind the stage announcing the stadium, unbelievable. But as a radio announcer, it wasn't his thing. And it just,
Mhm.
even though he had the voice, it's not about the voice. It's about the content. It's about what's in here and your capacity to communicate it. So I always go when somebody says, "Oh man, I listened to myself. I hated the way I sounded." Well, you should have recorded yourself into a cassette player that played back slower than real time. Then when you play it back, it plays back faster and you sound like Mickey Mouse. That
Yeah.
you think you sound bad in digital. Should have heard yourself in analog. But but the reality is that it doesn't matter. People just, the listener does not care. Really doesn't. It's the content coming out.
Yeah.
That's what matters. So don't worry about how you sound. Really be more concerned about what you're communicating. Find a vocal coach, help you maximize what you have as an instrument, and the listener will receive the content they're trying to receive, and that's all about what's coming out of here.
That's perfect. That's a great bullseye to kind of wrap things up on. Is again, you're not in competition.
Right.
Kerry and I have two different voices, two different personalities. We both have made it in this career and crazy business called radio and media, but it's not the same. And you aren't in competition against anyone else. Kerry, you're exactly right.
Yep.
Bring your knowledge, your ability,
Yep.
your skills to the stage. Learn to relax and have fun in it. I probably echo this for you, Kerry. You probably had more fun doing this than anything else at times, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the more fun you have, the more it conveys to your audience you're having a good time. You're just
Smile.
being you.
Always smile.
Always smile.
Always
Whether
smile.
you're seen or unseen.
Exactly.
Always smile.
Yep.
Kerry, I really appreciate your time, your nuggets, just your years and volume of knowing how to do this. Again, I just thank you very much, and hope you and the family are well as we keep going through this isolation time.
Absolutely. And same thing to you, and likewise, and blessings, of course, to each one right now. You know what? The truth of the matter is, I'm going to leave your listener, your viewer, with this. You have something extraordinary inside of you that the rest of the world needs. Only you can bring it. Don't let the unknown or the uncommon keep you from giving to the world so that they can receive and grow. The world can only advance when you give what's inside of you. So go give it away.
That's perfect. That's my friend Kerry Liebelt. He's in Minnesota. We will have information here in the links below so you can learn more about what Kerry is doing, his broadcasting, the ministry, the many aspects of how he does. He loves and leads people and gives it away. So once again, Kerry, thanks for doing that with us today. Until next time, on the Trigger, Rich Bontrager saying God bless. Have a great day. And we'll see you next time on How to Rock the Virtual Stage.